understanding that, shoot, man, it's all a thought, it's all mental. So if you want to connect with the original intention of the word, know what the word is, and then use the words that fit appropriately to give you the right frequency. That's high science. That's just, you know what I'm saying? Changing your speech. Um, yeah, man. Shoot, we can get into it.
I thought you started the video.
Yeah, that's I mean, I guess that's starting it. You know what I'm saying? You know, and this is just how we flow. I mean, I guess what we do is, for y'all at home who's watching, we just come, push play, start talking about whatever naturally, and we like to lead into it. You know, because how many times have you gotten those conversations of truth or whatever knowledge you will, and y'all was like, dang, we should have recorded that. You know what I mean? We feel like it happens best sometimes when it's now just a nice, beautiful day out. You know, just let it flow.
Right.
But oh, she back. What this video is about is pretty much one of our things as who we are. We're Moors. And when you take that title of Bey, it gives you a duty to be a law officer. All right? A badge and a gun does not make you a law officer, because the grand percentage of those with badges and guns do not even prescribe to know what law really is. They follow codes, and 95% of the time they don't even know the codes that they following, besides for the main ones. You know, they pull you over because expired registration and, you know, murder and stuff like that, of course. But as a Bey, our job is to seek out the enemy, lower self, in its many forms, obliterate it where it stands, and we all know that so-called Satan is the father of lies. So when you start to come at Moors, just know you in for one heck of a ride, one heck of a battle, because most people who have come out of the shielding or the veil of Negro, Black, and colored, to have that capacity alone, to throw those chains off of yourself, says a lot about the mind state of the person you're dealing with, who overstands themselves, who we do everything in our power to understand who we were and why it was taken away from us and hidden from us. So if you come with untruths, especially when it's directed at my nationality, my bloodline, who I am, what I'm about, my ancestors, we're not gonna let that fly. That is the mufti. That's when you see they wear the black fez. I know y'all don't like it. As Moors, we might be annoying because we seem to be parroting the same old thing, but how we gonna move into all the other levels when y'all not even getting the basic ones? So that's why we use din. Din means a form of repetitive and perpetual action, words, or deeds towards a thing until it. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of y'all just still not getting it. So we just gonna keep on talking. We're gonna keep on annoying y'all. We're gonna keep saying and telling the truth that we are Moors. And our nationality here in this great land of Northwestern Mexico is Moorish American. Brought back to us by our illustrious prophet Noble Drew Ali. And that's just what it is. If you are at the point, and I'm speaking specifically to my, what you would call Arab persuasion, pale skin European colonizer caste, those people in the so-called corporate Morocco who don't understand that melanated people are the oldest bloodline and form of people, the original people on the earth plane. If you're still not understanding that, then you can't come to me or us talking any kind of scholarship at all. It's not a hate thing. It's not a race thing. There's only one race, the human race. All right, but there are derivatives of the bloodline. Okay, it's no different than what is a watermelon. A watermelon is a green rinded fruit. When you open it up, it's red or yellow, depending on what part of the world you're in. But one characteristic of it is it has tons of seeds. Tons of seeds. Okay? If it doesn't have seeds, is it technically a watermelon? The seedless GMO one you get, is that still a watermelon? Technically, no. And if you want to be, for lack of a better understanding of it, then in so many ways, yes. That is the paradigm we're dealing with. A no but yes kind of paradigm when we're dealing with our pale skin derivatives of the original bloodline, who have the audacity to come at us here in the ancient Moroccan kingdom, or empire, excuse me, of Amexem, and tell us that we're taking your stuff when we can't have possibly come after you. Okay? So we want to nip some of that in the butt from love, not hate, but love does not mean kumbaya. Love does not mean kindness. Love means truth. Facts. Period. That's how you get back to Allah. Okay? We are not some slaves or descendants of slaves. We cannot be. The word slave is derived from Slav. Central Europeans are the Slavs or the slaves. Okay? Which, before they were put in bondage by our forefathers, that wasn't even looked at as a bad word or whatever. That just was their designation. All right, so we can get into the etymology and all that stuff, but do that on your own time, because we're not here necessarily for that term today. We're here to make it understood that do not let these new corporate Moroccans confuse any of you who are the real ascendant of Berber, dark-skinned peoples of North Africa, from your birthright, from your heritage and your knowledge of self. I don't care if you got one picture of some pale dudes in the Alhambra in Spain that has nothing to do with the magnanimity and the immenseness of the contribution of the dark-skinned, olive-complexion Asiatics who are the original inhabitants of Earth, who have taught everybody all our sciences and now are downtrodden upon because of our own fails and failures as well. But the Jubilee has come and y'all will not take your foot off our neck. So therefore, destruction and a great and terrible day must come upon this plane. And so we're not looking for, me personally, I'll at least say, I'm not looking for people to realize we the Moors again and give us back our stuff, because it's over with. This thing is over with. What I'm trying to do is get with my spiritual tribe and my people of my nationality specifically, and get us prepared for the new manifest. And the best way you do that is you repair your nervous system by repairing your consciousness, so that you have a mind befitting for the new. Okay? So I like to introduce with that. And if you want to, chime in, we're going to get into some of the common misbeliefs of so-called Moors in America. All right, we go on to Twitter and we get attacked by these pale Arabs who we don't go into their bubble of affairs and go, y'all not Moroccans. That's for y'all to figure out. But they love coming into our bubble of affairs and making sure we know we're not the Moors. Take our flag down. You're not Moroccans. If a man tells a lie, should you fear the outcome for yourself at the end of the day? No. A lie will not stand. Only truth will stand. Why would you, all the way across the river of the Atlantic Ocean, come to us, and yes, I said river on purpose, but do your etymology, come to us and try to tell us in a whole nother land we're not who we say we are, because you think it's you? What are you so scared of? What about us saying we're Moors and wearing our fezzes and getting back to our history? What about us makes you so afraid? Could it be the fact that in your DNA and deep in your genetics, when you see this fez on, you realize it looks better on us than it does on you, and that something about it seems right and righteous? Could it be in your DNA, the fear of when you seen the great Saracens come across your Slavic lands, take, rape, pillage, and sell your ancestors, which is not right at all, but that's just what it was. What frequency has you so shook about, as you term it, a slave or some Negro, black and colored, some ignorant nigger in America trying to wear a turban, a fez, and your flag? If I have no nationality and no birthrights, and I have no knowledge of self, and I'm not educated, and I'm not smart, and I'm not a scholar, what threat am I to you? To where you would want to take time out of your illustrious life of, you know, smoking hookah and enjoying the great old palaces in Morocco and wearing fezzes and talking Arabic or French or whatever and doing y'all thing. What about me disturbs you so much when I'm just a nobody who's just always has been a slave? Why do you need to address me? Us. Okay? Because you're scared and you know what time it is. So,
Pretty much.
if you want to, you know, get into some of the Twitter comments, we can address those.
Yeah, I was looking for the ones that was directly. It was so many tweets that it's hard to find the original.
Okay.
But one of the ones, just the last ones that two people that I wasn't even including in the conversation, but I was still at it, so I'm still getting the tweets.
Okay.
Had mentioned that Mansa Musa and his older brother taking a voyage, 100 ships and all that,
Yeah.
and basically refuting the whole we're slaves, so basically with the people that's taking advantage of the whole slave story, riding that wave, basically. These people, whether you're the so-called Africans or the Arabs or whatever, are refuting two different worlds. You're living in two different worlds: a slave and a king, in the same area where Mansa Musa and his older brother rule all this gold, all this type of stuff.
Right.
So
Made other countries rich just by his travels.
just by the travels. So that's earlier, right, before the so-called modern day slave trade.
Yeah.
Now, when we get to the modern day of how Morocco is utilized, because everybody's taking the modern day stuff. When they get back to the history, you have to put too much of the world together to make it make sense. So all the Arabic people, Arabians,
Yeah.
all the people that want to use slave trade, you're sticking around the modern time. So
Yes.
when we're talking about the modern proof, just before we get back to the more primal proof, basically when we're talking about Morocco, or just the word Morocco in itself, okay? Now, when we're talking about Sultan Muhammad III and all his establishments, right, in Morocco, where and how does the word Morocco, using this word, how does it attribute to the modern Morocco overseas? It's not a part of America, but still the Sultan Muhammad III recognized the United States in the late 1700s. Now, the United States is confused or interchanged as America. So what relationship does Sultan Muhammad have with America to be utilizing this type of information, for one? Okay, so obviously he knew that there was a deeper relationship between the Muslims and the Muslims, what you call that slaves and all this type of stuff. So if you can't get past that little flaky fact,
Yeah.
then
Easy stuff like that.
easy stuff, then you really can't go beyond as to. I seen on Twitter you know, he was over in modern Morocco,
Uh-huh.
the kingdom, I should say. I'll put it like that. He was in Morocco, the kingdom Morocco.
Yeah.
So, he was talking about look just like me, darker than me, saying you are not Moroccan. So that means you can only be saying one other thing. The same thing that the other modern Moroccans are saying. We're slaves.
Yeah.
You're darker than me. so basically saying, hey, my buddy right here.
Don't talk about my slave master.
Right, don't talk about my slave master, basically. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, my guy right here. You know about the whole invasion. Let me put my turban on or whatever and rock with my friend, though.
Right.
Like, what? What word? How does that correlate? You know what I'm saying? So, people are really stopping at a certain point of knowledge, and it's all modern. When we talking about who the Moors are and all this type of stuff, and that's how the loopholes was created too, because they'll use words like Berbers and Tartars and all this type of stuff, and not use another word that can obviously it's kind of like this. How they say we're blacks, and then we say we're Moors, but there's a word blackamoor. Through that word itself, they use that to corrupt all of the social, legal statuses and all that type of stuff by using social engineering to say, hey, we're black, hey, we're Moors, and then we have a whole little another trend during the era that's unsaid, not put on paper, all this type of stuff, unsaid energy, right? Because that's the other half of the story. We don't know a lot of times what's put on paper or you know, just put in the air, but unless you tap into it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So when we talking about just picking a piece from here and a piece from here, we have to remember that just looking up the word Moor, okay, when people of you know, in modern day Morocco say you're not Moors, okay, but think about this. You're in Northwest Africa. Africa.
Synonymous
You're the
with
Moors,
dark-skinned people.
Synonymous with dark-skinned people. You know, more correctly, I'll put as I learned olive, because olive has many shades and represents that being of what an olive is.
Yep.
And so black is not our identity, it just represents our identity.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So whether it may be dark, yellow, blue, the blue people, you know, all this type of stuff, there was still a deeper essence in which we about to tap into with some more pictures and information.
Yeah.
So
Olive, Osiris, you know. But yes. So let's just kind of, you know, attack a couple of these first little instances that we come across. For those who want to be agitators, why we do these is so we can put the facts on the record, get out here and give the proper perspectives and paradigms. So then now every time you talk, you're putting your foot in your mouth because you're not really studying. All right? Berbers are dark-skinned people. This is one of the first key issues we need to deal with. This man came online and his profile or whatever in his thing, it said Arable Berber, you know, Berbere. I guess, you know, a lot of Moroccans speak French or whatever. So, Arable, that's a type of troglodyte. Reese and Bays, Keys to Islam, 55 Keys to Islam. Or 5, I think it's 5 Keys to Islam. Whatever, you can go on Scribe and get C and Bay's books. And you'll see that the Arable Yarava Negro chimpanzee is a troglodyte ancestor of cave peoples, what you might know as Caucasians. So he's calling. He might not even know what Arable means. I don't know. That's just following the ways of his forefathers. You know, his lessons, what he's been taught, whatever. The whole trick is to take the low and make it seem high. This man told me, pale skin means nobility. So I see pale people who get sunburned. What's noble about the sun not liking you? And like I said, this is not a jeer at those people because you still have spirit, but you have to connect within you. Your lot in life is to humble yourself and deal with truths. If you only deal with truths and not emotion, none of what I'm saying should be making you feel a certain type of way. Because it's not dealing with, I don't like you and all this kind of stuff. It had nothing to do with that. Okay? So Berbers are dark-skinned people. So let's go and let's put some supporting facts to this. Okay? Now, first, let's attack that word Moor to get into the Berber thing. Moor. This is from second college edition of the American Heritage Dictionary. All right, in the early 80s or whatever. Okay. Moor, one of a Muslim, M-O-S-L-E-M, people of mixed Berber and Arab descent, now living chiefly, not mainly, it's saying chiefly. So if it says chiefly, that's stating a chiefdom, a sekam, a sultanate, a head, a so-called kingdom, chiefly in a spot. All right, it's not saying mostly, chiefly, meaning the head, so-called, of the organization or the body of it is here. The beginning. Now, when you put Africa back together with America on the map, because it's just a puzzle, you've been doing it since you were a child, you've been putting Africa in that little Gulf of Mexico gap, even when you was little, we have known that civilization started North Africa, Yucatan, so-called Mexico, Central America. They're at this dang near the same parallels. Okay, when we're talking about latitudinal lines and all that stuff. So before the Great Flood, that was interconnected. So you wonder why Yucatan and the Olmecs and all that was right there, and on the western north areas of Africa, because that was the hub, the center of the civilization as far as this most recent paradigm. When we say ancient, we're not talking ancient 5,000 years ago. When a Moor talks ancient, we really, if we went and get to the source of it, we going back hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago. Okay? So, Muslim people of mixed Berber and Arab descent. Arab denoting to people who speak Arabic. An Arab just means the language. So you're gonna come tell me about nationality when you just are named after the language that my forefathers spoke. Because how can you have a nationality when you don't have any land that you are originally indigenous to? What is your natal? Okay? When did Allah manifest your being? Didn't he make everything great in the beginning? So anything that comes after the original is a diminution or a bring down of the original. Okay? So, living chiefly in northern Africa. Also says one of the Saracens who invaded Spain in the 8th century AD. Saracens. A Moor, a Saracen. So every scholar in history, even the ones who don't want to admit it, they'll use Saracen in place of Moor, or as a modern view would take it, in the place of so-called black, because they don't want you to know it was the Moors, the Moorish nationals. So when they say Saracen, they're talking about dark-skinned people. Every scholar in the world knows that Saracens, Berbers are synonymous to dark-skinned olive people. That's not a debate, okay? Make yourself look foolish when you debate things so pronounced and so well known already, okay? So, that's a Moor, North Africa. The key to it is, remember, like I said, everything was together. America, North America, of Mexum, the North Gate here, where we live at here, is Northwest Africa. Okay? Just because land split doesn't mean that they don't have ties anymore. Okay? You could tear a piece of bread into a million pieces. That's all from the same piece of bread, the same loaf. Okay? Now, so they said Moors or Berbers who spoke Arabic, whose seat of chiefdom was in northern Africa, which is anciently known as Umexum. Okay? And anywhere the Moors are at is Morocco. That's a trait of our nomadic potentiality, because sometimes we move around. So where we go, because we're the Moors, the real Martians, wherever we go is Mars, is Morocco. That's just, it's not a debate. Okay? Show me where unmelanated people bloodline is older than melanated people's bloodline on this earth plane. You just can't. Gregor Mendel experiments, they've already proved that melanin is a dominant gene. That's why you were considered a Moor if you had 1/16 of a, or what they said, 1 drop back in the day. 1 drop, you were Moor. Go to that side with the dark people. Okay? So, a Berber, a member of one of several Muslim tribes of North Africa. Muslim. Okay? Any of the Afro-Asiatic, show me who's got the Afro? Who's, when you think of Afro, the first thing you think of is a Moor, is a dark-skinned person. Why are they using terms like Afro-Asiatic? These scholars, these psychologists, hi Amy, sit here and confuse you with terms to distract you from the fact that it's dealing with dark-skinned, melanated people. So they'll give you a piece of it, like Afro. Who else has an Afro? Who's known for Afros, but Asiatic, Moorish, dark-skinned people. Okay? So a Berber is any of the Afro-Asiatic or languages of the Berbers. So you can say, I speak Berber, because you're denoting to the Afro-Asiatic Moor. So let's sum that up, that piece. Berbers are North Africans. North Africans are known as Moors. So where's the discrepancy when Berbers are Afro-Asiatic people? Means, where's your Afro if you're a Moor? Where's your woolly, kinky, nappy hair? Okay? Are you a Saracen? No. If you're not, look like me or him, or got something, you gotta have the features. You gotta have something. Point blank. You might be able to get your little tan on. You might be able to have a little bit of melanin. You know? Where the final piece comes in is your mind. You think that you were enslaving us naturally on some kind of higher plane of being or something? I mean, it's ridiculous. So,
and just to, you know, cut you off for a quick second.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, when it comes to how, you know, the slave trades were, and, you know, the invasions, and then we have the whitewash of Rome and all these types of places, we got to remember that half of this stuff, or so much of this stuff, was with the help of the amalgamated Moors, right? And not just the Albion people, those Europeans, you know. So when we have to have the right eye and the right ear when we reading, you know, things in certain contexts, speaking on the Romans and stuff like that, and keep in mind that a lot of times that they had access to, you know, inside things to, you know, invade, that cause invasions, was due to the amalgamated Moors. And so, you know, and even Arab means mixed people in itself. So
Yeah.
to start off from that, from anything, to start off from that midpoint, that middle point of mixture, something being mixed is, is folly.
Mm-hmm. And if I could dip back into what that definition of Moor was for a second, they said Spain, right? One of the Saracens who invaded, dark-skinned people, who invaded Spain in the 8th century AD. So 711 AD, the Saracens, the Berbers, the North African dark-skinned Moors went into Andalus because there was no Spain back then. All right, but they just saying Spain for lack of a better understanding because they say Andalusia, El Andalusia, the land of Vandals. You wouldn't, people, huh? So they just say Spain because that's modern day, like he was talking about earlier, modern day understandings, getting you all fogged up. Okay, if you know anything about the invasion of us Moors going into Spain and taken back over, because there's records from the Punic times that was just Andalusia or Spain was just a mining land that we like to use for copper and stuff like that. Way back in the Punic days when we was doing our Phoenician thing and whatever. So if you know about that story, we ruled there for what, 800 years. We occupied it for 700 years. 1491 and 1492, when we finally got so-called, we made the little agreement, all right, we'll leave, we fell at Granada. We said, okay, cool. Some stayed and secretly converted and secretly stayed adhering to Islam or Hebraic faiths, what you call the Jews, or Moors, were dark-skinned people. But they were Moriscos, okay, and the Moranos. The Moriscos were the ones who converted to Christianity and secretly kept adhering to Islam, and the Moranos were those who converted to Christianity but secretly kept adhering to the Hebrew situation, the Jew. Okay, so once the Pope found out that people were still secretly doing this, he said, F the Treaty of Granada. He put out the bulla to conquest Muslim lands and Muslims all across. It's in the documents. All Muslim lands. Okay? So, a lot of Moors who left out of Andalusia went back to Berberland, Morocco. North Africa is Morocco. All of North Africa used to be known as Morocco. The trick of it is you got to understand there's North Africa as in Asia Minor, North Africa, Amexu, and then there's North Africa as in North America. Okay? If I'm in South Africa and I go to the middle of Africa, that will be the far north in comparison to me from being from South Africa. Okay? So north is north, it don't matter. It can just, wherever spot you at, if you go north, that's north. Okay? So, when we went back to Berberland and he gave the decree to slaughter and take over our lands and all that, this is where you get your misconception of the slave story. The sons, the amalgamated sons, the pale Arab who wanted to take our nobility, worked with the so-called amalgamated Moor, the Christian, to get those who would not submit to their Christian will. Okay, if you're a Muslim, M-U-S-L-E-M, and you down with all that dogma, you are a Christian. Judaism, you're a Christian. Okay, everything's under the banner of the cross. It's just got different seasons on it, so you can't tell the real taste. You're all adhering to Christian. The Moors the only ones standing up for true Islam to this day. All right. So when we went back to Berberland and Moors was selling Moors, these were the so-called Arabs who take our names and titles and nobility, the fake Turks and all them, selling us into so-called slavery. All right, so let's make this make sense. If we left out of Andalusia, Spain, went back to North Africa, where in your history books even, black people or pale Arabs or whoever, were the slaves taken from in Africa? in the 1600s. Northwest Africa. So let me say that again and slow it down for y'all who's a little bit slow. If we left out of Spain, went back to Northwest Africa as Moors, and then the slaves that you say in your history book were taken from Northwest Africa, then who are the so-called blacks in America then, if we are the descendants of those slaves of Northwest Africa? That makes us Moors in your very own proof. By saying you're a slave from Africa, North Africa, West Africa, you're saying you're a Moor, because that's where the Moors went when they left from Spain. They went back home. And some came to their other home, the Maghreb al-Aqsa, which is Morocco, the farthest west. That's why we were already here. Muggs already knew about this, but those Moors of Berberland, of Morocco over in the kingdom, were more associated with the conquest of Spain. So that was like some get back, okay? But Moors is Moors. So now that those ones who came from Africa and the so-called slave trade are here on this land, all they did was essentially mix back up with their brothers and sisters anyway. So how you know you not the Moor from Spain, or you was the Moor, the Native American that was already here, when you're dealing with the same people? It doesn't matter. Ham and Cush, Canaanites, Moabites, okay? Ruth, these are our people. The earth was all one at one point in time. So, that's that.
I'm about to look for this other tweet.
Okay, go ahead. So that's that. That's that whole, we're not Moors. If you're saying you're a slave that was captured from North Africa, you're saying you're a Moor. Because that's where the Moors are. That's where the Moors went. And that's where they always have been. One place they have always been. Because earth is our realm. Okay? I tackled the Arab as a language, not a people. Okay? Arab is a language. There's no antiquity of an Arab people from the ancient of times. You know, you got your Persians, you know, all that. Those are Moors. Stop it. Look up your so-called Anunnakian and all this. They all got fezzes on and turbans on. They all was wearing the womb on their head. Let you know, mother's son. Stop playing. You see the little bubble hair and stuff on the statues? That's to denoting to afro, to kinky, to woolly hair. There wasn't no straight hair people ruling it back then. It takes nothing to change the arts and the sculptures to whitewash them. When we say whitewash, they literally painted stuff that was brown white. They literally would reconstruct the hair. People are amazing at art. You see all kinds of amazing art stuff online every day. It's nothing for somebody to reconstruct something. You ever see how a tattoo artist can take a tattoo and make it look like a completely different tattoo called a cover-up? So he can do that on your skin without making mistakes and make it look good. What do you think somebody with a paintbrush and a canvas can do to an art? Why do you see Moorish sculptures, all the noses be knocked off and stuff? Whenever you see a sculpture with a nose knocked off, that's because it had a broad nose. It makes it look like a dark-skinned person, which they can't have you believe. Okay? Black is pale. So you got all you black people are sending some of these Moroccans online. They're talking about black people, black people, black people. You the black person. Do the etymology of the word black and see if it doesn't mean pale, to whiten, to bleach. I'm not a black person. A person is a corporation. So all in that sentence, you all kinds of jumbled up at law. You regurgitating all kinds of poop and turds out your mouth. In that instance, a black person. So you're saying a dead corporation, a dead corpse. corpse, corporation. Okay, a black person is a dead corporation. Okay, meaning that it makes no profit. The profit of it all goes to a higher corporation or a higher corpse, dead entity.
Real quick, another aspect of this still a gray area for many people who don't even like to read. The pictures alone, the history, the dynamicism behind the pictures alone.
Yeah.
Because some of these tweets, I don't want to. I'll put the picture up. I edit it, but there'll be different pictures of Moors. This color, that color, right?
Yeah.
And the modern pictures, right? That I wish I could show. That it basically shows the Moors as being pale.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? While the darker ones or the older pictures,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like they'll use, hey, the Moors are pale, and this German drew it, blah blah blah, and they'll use certain degrees while we use the same exact statements they using,
Mm-hmm.
along with more full knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when we talking about the Germans drew the pictures of the Moors and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
we got to think about exactly what you just referred to. Them being in two different places
Mm-hmm.
at once.
Mhm.
So though they haven't seen these people over here having little contact, they're looking at the same ones right in front of their face. All while the invasion system, and that's really the main thing that led up to, the knowledge of the Moors being lost. These pictures, because we're really, we're dealing with dark age energy still. All this type of cycles.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Where everything was, degenerating and all this type of stuff. And so when we looking at the pictures alone, people try to use the pictures of, the pale Moors that was basically used to confuse the people.
Yeah.
Opposed to, the more, and even just the statues alone. The statues alone would just tell you,
Yeah.
are you serious?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
structure
Yeah.
looks pale to you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we gotta, and that's for people who are in modern Moroccan, all these type of Rome and all this type of stuff. But let's just tackle the point of the pictures that you may have, that people come through, and the confusion between, hey, he drew this, so obviously it's a factor.
Yeah.
All this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's bring more vivid realization into that real
Okay.
quick.
It's just like you said. German artist. What the heck is a German but a corporation? Germany, all the state names that you have today, from Germany to Ireland to England, yes, we say, okay, yeah, you got to have a nationality. You have to have a land that is synonymous with the people. Englishmen live in England. But these are not the ancient names. Germany, England, all these stuff are the names in trust that of the Moorish Grand Trust of the earth. These are names and people and, let's say, pseudo-nationalities, if you really will, that we have bestowed upon the amalgamated and pale-skinned nations of the earth. So you're talking German and English, you're still talking something that belongs in the Moorish trust, okay? So if you tell me a German person painted something and it was some pale people, you're telling me, essentially, that a person that had to be bestowed a nationality is the one that's coming with the facts, when I know he's dealing with all kinds of potential hatred towards his father and mother civilization, his father and mother race, so to say. Like I just said, the Pope made a decree to conquest all Muslim lands. That didn't mean just take the land and scoot us over. Esoterically, land is the flesh, is the body, is the vessel. So when he said take over the lands, he meant everything that had to do with us, from the paintings to the pictures to what is produced, had to fit the agenda of Albionic European persuasion. It is nothing to change these pictures, these sculptures, but it's so much to change, that's why they couldn't get them all. So let's just deal with the facts. If you're dealing with a picture of a Moor and he's pale, and you're dealing with a picture of a Moor and he's dark skinned, what clearly is the agenda? Because you gotta deal with the facts. Who's the older blood? Who's the older person on earth? Who's known to be the older person on earth? Without a shadow of a doubt and no dispute, by real scholars. Not by people who aren't caught up in their emotions and they just so want to believe that their ancestors were these great Arabian knights and stuff like that. The oldest genome, genetic code on the land is dark-skinned, melanated people. The sun-kissed people. That's not a debate. So, if the Pope made a bullah to conquest all Muslim everything, why would you believe that the pale-skinned Moor is the Moor over the dark-skinned Moor? That would make no sense. That's why seeing is believing. That's no different than Jesus' picture. Isn't it funny how the Jesus picture in America, so-called United States, is, some, Caesar Borgia looking dude, dark brown hair, kind of, dark features. And, he's pale skinned. I look in some of the Bibles and some of the books, depending on what region of the country I'm in, sometime he's got short hair and a goatee. Sometimes he got just, a mustache and a beard. I've seen blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesuses. When you go to China, the people who ascribe to Christianity over Jesus, isn't it funny that he somehow kind of has chinky eyes and he looks like them all of a sudden? Isn't it funny how when you go to other pale nations, Jesus looks like them? But when you go to any dark-skinned nation, Jesus is pale. So we got a pale Jesus in our so-called black churches. You got the Africans over in so-called Africa, got pale Jesuses that they worshiping. Okay? They learned a long time ago that the imagery is what is necessary, and that's why I admire people like Asir the Duke of Tears and them so much, because they use the images that have been hidden, veiled, and not made readily available to the public at large. Okay? What makes more sense? Who had a whole empire? The people who have been having empires for millions of years? Or this new person? If those pictures are true and congruent, and there's a pale person that is depicted as a Moor, you best believe he was under the protection or the family of a Moorish tribe. Okay, because we don't want to harm or hurt anybody, not even pale people. Especially back then when we looked at them with pity. We weren't looking at pale people like how we looking at them today, like some colonizer, evil, so-called European usurper. We looked at them with pity. And Islam teaches us peace. It teaches us to lift up those who are low. So why wouldn't we teach them to wear turbans and fezzes? Why wouldn't we teach them to put on robes and carry themselves like nobility? And think highly of yourself. To be good, to follow your Father God Allah. Okay? This is why you might see pale-skinned people dressed like us, looking like us, because some of them were in our tribes. You ever see it on the movies? Some guy goes to, you know, some hidden part of Zimbabwe and he meets the Uku tribe or something. And what's the first thing they try to do to him? Oh yeah, they make him an honorary member. They don't care if he's white, so-called. They don't care if he's black. They don't care. They try to give him here, take one of my daughters for your wife. Okay? Because the true way we're supposed to look at each other is when I see arm, leg, arm, and head, I should thank Allah. But the reason that can't be done anymore is because people don't want to deal with the facts anymore. It's all emotional. So yes, Arabs and pale people who are wearing turbans and feathers in those pictures were the ones, if they were real pictures, underneath the vestige of Moorish nobility. Because we are to love and not hate. It is the hate of the Moors towards those pale ones that engendered hate in them to come back on us. What goes around comes around. All right? So just because you see some reconstruction painting or portrait in the Alhambra from the 13th century, says Moors, 8th century, 711 AD, conquer Spain. 13th century, we was kind of on the way down. Okay? It's nothing for them to, you know, do some of this. It's nothing for a self-hating Moor who is amalgamated, who hate how he was the son of one of the concubines that was a Slav, because, you know, us Moorish men needed us to have us some Slavic women to get with his others and devise a plan. It's always about factualization. Those who have like minds and like purposes are always going to come together. It's magnetic. And work for a common cause. So I don't know if that makes it make sense, but there's no agenda for helping people believe that we're Moors. I'll put it like that. There's no hidden agenda to, you know, by European peoples, pale peoples, people who said they were our slavers, to actually help us. Let's be real about this. There's much more influence in this world towards people making pictures that could have been so-called black people or Moors and making those white than the other way around. Because basically what you're telling me is, I'm saying they took the picture of because the pictures I have of Moors who are dark-skinned, you're telling me that somebody reconstructed the pale picture so that it could depict a dark-skinned person in power, in nobility? No, that's very highly unlikely that over in Europe and Arabia that they were blackwashing, so to say. They weren't dark-skin washing paintings and pictures over there. That's not even a thing. That's not even a term. Nobody's even thought of that like that. But whitewash, pale washing is a very real thing that has been proven to be done. Look at the walls of Egypt, of Kemet. You think a bunch of pale people were the Kemetans? Like, stop. I have the pictures from the walls. They're all brown as me. Some lighter, some darker. But there's no agenda to blackwash, if you will, pale skinned people's pictures and portraits. So, who did mine? Just somebody who just, let me see what it looked like if it had thick lips, thick nose, and kinky hair, and was dark skin. Come on, man.
You want to interject or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I'm trying to find another tweet.
Oh, okay. So, another thing. Moroccans over there, if you say you're Moroccan, you're saying you are a Moabite of the Bible. So you're saying you're a Moabite. But this, House Resolution 1203, out of Georgia, amongst many other proclamations done by many other cities, Chicago, 2011, okay, what do you call it, the city in North Carolina, okay, Philadelphia, and about, 7, 8 others have made decrees and declarations that Moorish Americans are the real people. But I'll just read a little bit of this to you. This is a resolution. Since you're a Moroccan, you're saying you're a Moabite. So, whereas the Moorish Americans, who we claiming to be, whose ancient forefathers are the mothers and fathers of the human family, stand in these days as a comity of descendants from the ancient Moabites and Canaanites, who were permitted by the old pharaohs of Kemet to traverse from East Africa and later form kingdoms extended from the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa and the Atlantic islands unto the present-day continental Americas. And whereas the Moorish Americans are teaching their people their true nationality and divine creed, that they may become better citizens, and pay attention to this part, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, nor Afros, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865. So don't debate with me, debate with the United States Congress and the Georgia State House and its representative. House Resolution 1203. Why is Moorish Americans and Negroes being brought up in the same thing if Negroes aren't Moorish Americans? Okay, this is very, very simple stuff. They proposed this. They put this on the record. Not After Bay, not Akil Bay. This is done by people who aren't even Moors, who researched the facts and understood the truths. So they're saying you're not a Negro or black, you're ancient Canaanite, ancient Moabite, and the mother or father of human civilization on earth. So my history book has been written. Y'all been reading my history book for a long time and not understanding it though. You know, your so-called Bible, the esoteric book, an astrology book, they say it's written in the stars. But let's take it back down and hopefully you can understand. If you're saying you're a Moroccan, you're saying you're an ancient Moabite and a Canaanite. And you know those weren't no pale nations. That's not even up. That's another thing that's not even up for a debate at all. That's not even a. We shouldn't even have to. If we have to make you understand that, then there's nothing for us to talk. They should literally put you in a sane asylum if you believe that you are an ancient Moabite or Canaanite over I. And he, and we, okay?
As well as, some similar information. For one, if we look up in many dictionaries, 1800s especially, we can look up, more and see,
Yeah.
the relations. And as well as just how you pointed out, in a Negro law, of South Carolina in the mid 1800s is, again, when we can see how Moor relates to the dark. It's everywhere. It's dark people. You never see pale.
Mm-hmm.
You never see, unless it's some type of manipulative story behind it.
Yeah.
This gonna be easy to call out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, for people to say you're not a Moor, they would have to literally start a lawsuit or a case
Mm-hmm.
against the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the ones saying it.
Right.
Hey, go fight the courts.
Yeah. Sue us.
Go right, go sue us.
Go
See
sue
how far
us.
you get.
Moroccans, sue us. Please, sue us. Bring it to a court of law and sue us and prove, bring your facts and prove in the International Court of Law that you are a Moor. And I'm, I don't know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be according to y'all when I really think about it. We're some blacks and some kind of Negro slave people.
I heard somebody
something
say
like that.
you're a native African American.
You're a
I said,
native
what?
African American.
I said, so what continent
boy,
is that?
you almost
How-
made my whole fez.
Like,
That's some stuff right there.
A native African American.
I said, it really just really blows my mind to see.
That's a mind blower.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, what? How? So you talking about on the way here
Yeah.
or something? People was born. Like, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And even then, that's not even Africa or America. Like,
That's
what
the
are you
ocean.
talking?
Right. Like what? I'm a native African American. And I mean,
Yeah.
not that that's the proper term, but like
Yeah, it's
y'all
not.
y'all don't even understand the magnanimity of that term if it was a so-called claim. You're saying you're German. You're this. You're saying in the statement African American that I am the progenitor of both of those continents. If you wanna, you know what I'm saying? I'm the African American. So you're confirming what I'm saying. You're confirming that my blood is so ancient that it has traversed all of that.
And I'm sure that, you know, a lot of the elders in Morocco, I haven't posted this on my Facebook or Twitter or anything yet,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of stuff I haven't posted.
Yeah.
It's an elder in Morocco, pale skin, admitting to the simple facts, as we've been saying this whole time. America is Morocco, and it predates all of the modern so-called facts that people have
Mm-hmm.
that don't align with the Moors being dark-skinned.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to the local elderly people who may have more knowledge due to their fathers and mothers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because all this, we already know, if you speaking straight from what the school taught you, and you still in the back of your head, oh, this stuff is a lie. What exactly are you talking about when you say this is a lie? You're waking up, whatever. You realize that whoever has led you astray. What exactly are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just because we have to deal with, you know, us as dark people, have to deal with Moors, have to deal with slave stories and all that, don't mean that other parties can't deal with stories of the same degree, because everybody has that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not about, hey, you have a bigger, sadder story than I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's not it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what this whole, it's just an energy battle
Mm-hmm.
between, hey, you're this and it's that, and then when you get your feelings hurt, that's when you just want to speak emotional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if it's hard for you to stop thinking emotionally and speaking emotionally through this whole video, then you're the person I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so take this time to look up the actual factuals, the context, starting off with the modern day stuff, and align it with exactly with the information that we've been presenting this whole time, especially him. Okay? So I don't want to hear, you know, a lot of times on Twitter, it'll be a fact, and then the person will say, "So you telling me?" And it's a whole bunch of that. "So you telling me?" And it's a question. "So you telling me?" Well, that's kind of like a.
I ain't telling you nothing. The fact just told
Right,
you.
The fact just told you, because obviously you can't get around it.
Yeah.
It's filled with questions now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The facts bring you questions. That means you're in cognitive dissonance and self-denial all of a sudden. That's what it is. I had a brother. I put down a term. Just broke down the etymology of Berber and Moor and all that stuff. He gonna tell me, "See, you're not even reading it right," and then say what the dictionary didn't say as proof. And I was like, and he was getting likes, and I said, I know I'm dealing with miseducated people. Miseducated people you don't even absorb information like a top tier Moor does. And we understand that.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm the top tier Moor. What I'm saying is that you're not framing your mind in the paradigm of word sciences and stuff. Like, you're just reading it the way that you've been taught to read it, probably in your local school educational system. Okay? It doesn't take much to be a scholar. What it takes to be a scholar is the knowledge of the things that are scholarly, as in how do you learn how to study? Things like word sciences, things like understandings of cosmology. And where do you get that from? You get it from people who are already established scholars. You don't got to go to no super university. You got to get with the people who have come, learned, and understood certain things and can show you, can prove it to you without a shadow of a doubt. And also, one of the most essential parts of being a Moor is, bunk all that, you got to have intuition and spiritual aptitude, if you will. You know, you think I don't know I'm not dealing with people who are spiritually dead, but trying to yet talk facts and you know, religious and all this kind of, you know, stuff. When you're spiritually dead, when you don't try to pick a path in life to live, but you that's why you caught in your emotions in the first place when it comes to facts and knowledge. All right. So another thing, like he said, what you can research for all you doubters and dissenters. Research what was happening in Americas during all that time when the Sultan was making treaties of peace and friendship and all this. The United States of America was not the United States of America before it was the United States of Barbary. Okay? Read a book by, I think his name is Charles Sumner, called Barbary States. Now you will start to see the gap close of why we ascribe to Islam here. Why we are of the persuasion of fezzes and turbans and the great megaliths of the great cities like Mecca, or what you call Chicago, and St. Louis and all that kind of stuff. That's because we've been holding down here. Okay, the so-called Phoenician situation, we were speaking Latin and all that kind of stuff. Because where did all the so-called Greeks and Romans and all them, get it from? You're dealing with the Moabite Canaanite situation. We've been had plumbing. We've been had, copper pipes for water and, aqueducts. And that's not nothing new, y'all. We had heating in the houses without fire. Fireplaces that y'all use aren't even for fire in the original situation. They were just mantles because we had copper wiring all through the houses that we used to power with orgone technology that reverberated heat throughout the house and insulated at the same time. We're not no dummies. This ain't anything new. Okay, so research the United States of Barbary. Understand all those tribes of the Almoravid and all that kind of stuff. That stuff was here. That's why we have Algiers here. Right here in where I living at in the Indiana Republic that I'm living near is Morocco. Okay, this is Babylon. This is all that. Tripoli is right up here in what you so-called Wisconsin and all that. Right off the lake. Okay? The last great battle the Moors fell here was the Great Lakes. So look into the United States of Barbary. understand that your so-called Native Americans, all of them, were Moors, and we was already down with Islam, the Great Law of Peace, forever ago. Been doing this here. The root chakra of the earth is right here in Mount Shasta, California. Okay? So won't even get further into that because y'all need to research. But I'll leave y'all Moroccans with this, who talk about us being y'all slaves and we were slaving y'all and you take pride in that. And one was on my head talking about, yeah, any questions, slave, and you know, you were our slaves, and but then had the nerve to talk about Allah. I'll talk about when we was enslaving y'all with a humbleness and a way of, man, hey, we was cutting up. My forefathers, that ain't right. I don't care how much you're getting on my nerves with your Moroccan stuff. Nobody should be enslaved, you know what I mean? When you take a pride in that, for one, it lets you see how strong you think we are. You take pride in enslaving a weak race. There's no pride in that. You take pride in enslaving us because you know we are mama's son. The strongest, the bravest, the best, the brightest. That's why y'all take pride in enslaving us. That's the psychology behind it. Would you take pride in enslaving a whole bunch of mice? No, they're mice. You enslaved the progenitor of all human genetics and mankind, the Moor. That's why you take so much pride in that. Okay? If we're so lowly and wretched, why do you care? Why does it matter if you enslaved us if we're weak? Okay? But this is what your just due is, and y'all keep sticking to that knowledge. It's in the Quran. Read your Quran since y'all all so holy and you know Allah. Okay? Surah 990 through 97 talks about y'all your desert Arabs. All right? And what kind of people you are when you ascribe to this kind of thinking of your forefathers. That's that dirty mind that's going to get you into the great fire. All right? So I'll just read the one. Arabs of the desert. Okay, this is 997. The Arabs of the desert are the worst in unbelief and hypocrisy, and most fitted to be in ignorance of the command which Allah has sent down to his messenger. But Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So this is in the good books. Your descendants are those Arabs of the desert, so-called, that you think. All right? We civilized people. So, yes. More recently, that's y'all people. Anciently, we were those people. But this came out in the 600s. Okay? 7th century and all that. So who y'all prescribing to be? Just be careful what you say and who you're talking about, because you don't want to be an Arab of the desert. Okay? Now, if we want to get on the esoteric tip, a desert is a dry, lifeless place. Lifeless are those who don't have the mind of Allah, who don't have soul, who bear no fruit. An Arab of the desert is any fool who doesn't ascribe to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All right? So we can go esoteric and go exoteric with it, but just be mindful of what you say when you brag and boast of being slavers, because your just due will come.
For sure.
So,
All right, we're going to end this one here and probably make another part 2 depending on how life is flown.
yeah. Support, man. Realign Academy. We're going to make a video about the school, too, because, you know, we're trying to be active out here. And we having a homeschooling service because these schools here, it's about to get real serious here. Putting your children in the public school system is basically admitting the jurisdiction of the well-being of your children to the school system, because you do it anyway. You essentially take your children to a place where strangers are and give them the authority to tell your child to do all day. So you're not really showing the state, if you will, that you are willing to take responsibility of your child's well-being in the first place. That's a acquiescence. And that COVID vaccine is getting real close to completion, as I hear. So y'all be careful. You ain't gonna be able to get your children back until you get the vaccine too. So homeschooling, getting on that wave is something we've been doing for about almost last 2 years. And just trying to help some of our Moors, our melanated people, to come up out of that beast, because the doors is almost closed. It's almost time to disintegrate this old and step into the new. And we dang sure want it for our children, even if you don't want it for yourself.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's all I got.
So yeah, y'all tap back in soon with some more information, especially taking this group, because that's gonna be like all this history. All this is cool, but that's more critical. That's right now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we definitely gonna tap into that. So y'all be watchful for that. So I'll holler at y'all next time.
Islam.
Islam.